Hello guys, this is Adityanand and in this VREALIZE automation tutorial, we are going to learn about the various architectural deployments as we are already well informed about the VRA components from our previous tutorials. Also, rejoice since this is going to be a small one. Now getting back on track, the architectural deployments can be broadly divided into two types, depending upon the number of virtual machines that we are willing to deploy our IS components on. The first one is the minimal deployment and next up we have the distributed deployment. Now, talking about the minimal deployment is used when you have to give a demo or a proof of concept to a customer. In a minimal deployment, we can have two or three virtual machines based upon how many components you decide to club together. One of these would obviously be the virtual appliance. So, the IS component can be deployed in two ways. Either you can deploy all IS components on the same virtual machine, and then you will have your complete minimal deployment in only two virtual machines. Or you can deploy the IS database on a different virtual machine and all the other IS components on a single virtual machine, and of course, the appliance on a different virtual machine. This way, you will have three virtual machines and a complete deployment that is your minimal architecture. Now, since we are done with the minimal deployment part, let's talk about the distributed deployment of VREALIZE automation. Also, I hope this doesn't sound redundant, but there are again two ways to do the distributed deployment. First one is your normal distributed deployment, and the second one is your distributed deployment with high availability. In distributed deployment, we are of course going to deploy a virtual machine, and the IS components are going to be distributed among different virtual machines. That is, instead of running all the IS components together on a single virtual machines, we are going to club and distribute them on different virtual machines. Now, one of the way to do this is the following. First up, we're obviously going to have a virtual machine, a virtual appliance. Second up, we can have the IS web plus model manager data plus model manager web on a single virtual machine. On the third virtual machine, we can have a manager service plus the demo orchestrator. On the fourth virtual machine, we can have multiple instances of dem worker running. And on the fifth one, we are going to have a proxy agent. Now, this makes up for the distributed deployment, and it is used when the load is high and can't be handled by the minimal deployment. Now, let's talk about the distributed deployment with high availability. In the distributed deployment with high availability, all the components are clubbed and distributed on different virtual machines, same as in the distributed deployment, but there are multiple instances of each virtual machine running behind a load balancer to provide high availability. For example, you can have two or more than two virtual appliances running behind a load balancer. Also, as we discussed in the distributed deployment, the normal distributed deployment part, you can have multiple instances of IS web plus model manager, the components installed on a single VM, and there are multiple instances of that VM running behind a load balancer. You can just make a combination and permutation of the components together and have them running behind a load balancer. Now, I hope you got the gist of it, as this is the usual deployment in the production environment with very high workload, as this deployment provides the capability to handle such loads, as well as all the virtual machines running are highly available that allow us to recover in case of failures. Now guys, this was all about the types of deployment that we have. This was a short tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye.